oh my God, we up, we live. And you know what it means, we about to do it. Let's go and let the people gather. What's going on with my music?
Mr. Deity, Mr. Deity, Mr. Deity.
We up live. Lines are open. You know how we do it here. Y'all know how we do it here. Don't kick it. Sound like Shaka's in the house, family. Lines are open. I want to welcome you to the congregation of the mighty. This is Gye-Nyame Journey Media. I don't know what's going on with my bird, but she need to talk up a little bit louder. How you bring it from down here, anime from down here. There we go, girl. All right, this is a Heart of a Simba production, and right now we are on Tribal Quotes. When we strive, then you know what? Blow up those old paradigms. Right now I'm joined on the line by Brother Shaka. We have somebody else up on the line. Somebody else has joined us on the line. This is the famous Lady J. And we are going to sit up here and we're going to talk, rapitates about these tribal quotes. So what we'll do, we'll let everybody go. Well, first, let me read the Proverbs. Then people introduce themselves, and if you got some news for the day, we're gonna let you say it. But let's do the Proverbs first, because I already know that a lot of times when we don't do the Proverbs first, we might not get to it because it's so much going on in the world today. So we on day 41. We pulling from Gye-Nyame Journey Workbook Tribal Quotes by myself, compiled by myself. I didn't write the Proverbs. Of course, I just compiled them over about a 2-year period. Actually a lifetime, let's just say that. But I got focused about doing something during a 2-year period. Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom. One can find it, live it, be fortified by it, do wonders through it, but one cannot communicate and teach it. That's by Herman Hesse, day 41. That's Herman Hesse. We already know we on day 41. Number 2, familiarity breeds contempt. That's an English proverb. We got many forms of that same proverb. And the last one is, you must eat an elephant one bite at a time. So, all right, we done read the Proverbs, so we get back into them at any given time. Remember, family lines are open, 614-556-4535. Once again, I want to show y'all how powerful y'all are, because I told y'all on Ujima, I said, go on and share and see how powerful you are. And family, y'all shared. I had only 5 shares, and with only 5 shares, our numbers shot up ridiculously. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm telling y'all right now, family, like and share on Facebook. Also, it'll pop up on our YouTube page after we get done doing what we do here. But I'm trying to tell y'all, family, the movement is on, it's popping, and we are building. Now, the announcement that I have is that we're moving towards trying to get a vehicle specifically for Gye-Nyame Journey, right? So amongst the other things that's popping off, we're trying to get a vehicle. The garden that we working on at the school got the number 1. It was voted the best educational garden of the year, and one of our young warriors, Mr. Tykees Cox, Mr. Tykees, got the entrepreneur of the year. So, family, we're not playing here. I just keep on trying to tell you. I just keep trying to tell you. But who want to go first, Shaka or Lady J? Y'all got some announcements before we jump knee deep?
You just said announcements. Take the way to the end.
After I read the Proverbs. So if you got an introduction,
okay,
you got something going on that you want to share, by all means, share.
Hey, hi, Tim. I just want to share, man. I've actually shared it with you already. Did you open up the pictures?
Yeah, I got the pictures.
Did you see what I'm working with over here?
Man,
I'm trying to tell you something. It's a whole, there's levels. There are levels to this, man. I spent most of the day at the Chinese herbalist just researching. I found out that they had the dandelion root here. I said, oh my goodness. I found out they had sour stuff. I'm like, man, they own the something. And they had a whole bunch of other stuff that I had to study up on and get right with. Now, are you familiar with the other ones? Because I'm going to just leave it at that right now, and you and I can have a conversation later on.
I seen astragalus root. I saw the jasmine buds. I saw a lot of stuff I'm familiar with. There's one that I wasn't. It was a red box, and it got a funny name.
Yeah.
I might know the herb by another name.
Hey, so don't worry. I was hoping you was gonna say that because you familiar with that root. The one that you said you saw just now. You familiar with that one, but the one that you said that you're not familiar with, and anybody that's listening in, feel free to look this up. I'm gonna look it up while we're on the phone. or while we on the show rather. But it's called Polygonum multiflorum. Polygonum, that's Polygonum, multiflorum.
That got to do a lot of shit because poly means a lot and multi means many. So go ahead.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look it up right now just so I can give y'all a clear, give you my understanding of what this stuff is doing. But I got a couple of brews coming up with this because that's actually it's actually a bark. That's a bark. And so this is my first time dealing with barks and roots outside of the rooibos, the red rooibos that I've been using. But of course, because we're dealing with these things, once again, I can't stress enough how important caffeine is to the process. And a lot of these ingredients that I'm using are non-caffeinated, so I have to make sure that
you find a way to get that
he has his fair share of special gunpowder. But yeah, that's so we'll continue.
All right. So, Lady J, it's on you. So, what you gonna do?
I'm ready to discuss the Proverbs.
All right, cool. Which one?
I'll wait. I'll wait to say what I need to say because we never get the chance to.
All right.
The Proverbs when I start talking because people,
be jumping on it, right? Well, hey, that's what you do. All right. So, which one you want to start with? 1, 2, or 3? Just pick a number.
1.
Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom. One can find it, live it, be fortified by it, do wonders through it, but one cannot communicate and teach it. Somebody want to go first? Or y'all want me to start off? Those of you that's in the chat, y'all don't have to wait. You know what I'm saying? If you on the app, on Spreaker, or if you live on Facebook, go on type something in. Let's go and get this conversation popping off.
Tim, if you will, can you repeat it one more time?
Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom. One can find it, live it, be fortified by it, do wonders through it, but one cannot communicate and teach it.
So it just basically, for me, it just saying that the wisdom comes via experience.
Okay.
So wisdom comes via experience. That's pretty much it.
Wisdom comes by experience. And so, because I think a lot of people might be not clear that knowledge and wisdom are two different things. And I think people fall short on that because they think because they got a lot of knowledge, because we run into that, especially in the conscious community. Motherfuckers get a lot of knowledge. They know a lot of shit. They could, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to wisdom, wisdom is rare. You know what I'm saying? Because wisdom is the ability to take knowledge and make something of it. You understand what I'm saying? How they say knowledge is power. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, knowledge. Quay said you can't explain how good sex feels. Right? You can't. You got to go through it. You got to experience it. And it's the same thing with wisdom because it's like, how do you transfer that? You know what I'm saying? How do you transfer that? Now, our ancestors came up with a system where we could pass on the wisdom. You know what I'm saying? And it was like through the rites of passage, we would pass on experiences that can introduce you to certain wisdoms. right? Through initiation, you could pass on certain experiences that open the door so that an individual can get wisdom. I remember years ago we used to have an argument about equation for wisdom. You know what I'm saying? I used to say knowledge plus wisdom divided by understanding equals wisdom. Knowledge plus wisdom divided by experience equals wisdom, or something like that. We just used to play with that stuff because it's like a lot of people just don't understand that there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, especially like when you're talking to young people, because they think because they know something, right? You know something, but you can't really get down into the meat of it until you actually experience what it is that you're talking about. We got Miss Regina. She says, knowledge is knowing facts. Wisdom is the way, the timing, and the purpose in applying or putting those facts to use. And no passage, no sex. Quasi got sex on his mind today, family. Call in line 614-556-4535. Anybody else want to go on that one? Man.
You know, I always say, Hatem, especially in partying, when I feel like, you ever been in a situation where you have an understanding that you wish to extend to someone because you see at that very moment they can use that information, right? Mm-hmm. And because whether it's fear, envy, or distrust, or whatever causes them to push away from gaining that understanding, one thing that I always say in partying is what you fail to learn at my expense, adversity will teach you at your own. Because honestly, that's the only sure way. I can explain my experience and give my testimony, but until someone has walked in the present to be able to understand that principle or virtue that's being extended, and through the experiential, like Lady J said, then or even having the will to learn that vicariously through your own experience, they won't receive it. And once again, that's the difference between the speculative and the operative.
Now, I'm going to say this. The one thing I don't agree with on this one, it says, but one cannot communicate and teach it. Now, I will say this. You might not be able to teach it, but you can communicate wisdom. Because in how you do things. Because one of the things that you notice about children, some children are able to pick up from your experience, from even some of the lessons that you give them, and they're able to translate that into some personal wisdom. This is one of the powers of stories, because stories allow you to get experience without necessarily having to bump your head. So you can communicate, and I will even go as far as say teach wisdom. You know what I'm saying? By exposing people to some of the processes that we had, because storytelling was a very important way of being able to pass on wisdom. Just a little bit more than knowledge, because in your mind, if you got a good story, if you got a good story and a good storyteller, you will be able to experience wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Like when we do those good stories. Now, is somebody else on the line too that haven't went yet? 940.
What? Yeah. Can I? Am I on?
Yeah, you want to go ahead.
Yeah, man. I think now when you get to talking about knowledge and wisdom, I think that conversation is inherently about sex. It's about the sexes, because knowledge to me seems more like a masculine tendency, and wisdom is more like a feminine tendency. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that's what's so great about the feminine, is because women are all way more experiential than men can even be. And then
Quasi, I think you own to something, but I wanna extend something to you at this very moment, because the same thing you're talking about is delivered in a 9-minute. I don't want to say lecture because it goes real fast. But if you were to YouTube spirit science, male versus female, what we are generally dealing with is moving from a polarity complex, which is generally the way that masculine energy is explained, into a unity consciousness. So a polarity consciousness into a unity consciousness. And
I think polarity is more so about the interaction between the male and the male. I like to stay away from the male and the female. Polarity is all about connection. You see what I'm saying?
Right, I hear you, but that's not what how polarity is used in this context. Polarity meaning that everything either has to be good or bad. It's either day or it's night. It's concrete, one thing or the next. It's a very aggressive way of understanding.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I understand.
Unity, it's the same difference between the way that your left brain processes and your right brain processes. One of them is logic, one of them is creative, and neither of them can truly understand the nature, but it can respect the nature of how they move. So all of this is described, once again, it's 4 words that you type in. Spirit, science, male versus female. And you'll see that what you're saying is true, but it has less to do with sex than it does the
well, what I heard about is it Quasi? Say, I heard you saying, what I got from what you said was one is more of an active sense, where one is more of being acted on. So in order to obtain knowledge, you're going to have to do something, right? But wisdom just comes through life. You don't have to do anything but have experience in order to gain wisdom. So it's kind of more something that acts on you, whereas knowledge, you're acting on the knowledge. You have to do it. Mm. That's how we get children who are wise before their time. Because if you have children going through certain experiences, right, that are going to be the universe acting on them, that is what's going to wisen them up, or give them that wisdom, versus children just learning. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Kind of going back.
I'm glad you said that, Lady J. And let me just say this real fast, quick.
Go ahead.
Because this is what I was going to say in closing. So the punchline to everything I just said is that where we are in this era and this whole shift that we're talking about, what Lady J described as the Great Awakening, we are moving out of polarity consciousness into unity consciousness by way of the children who are teaching us through not IQ, but EQ. It's the difference between, so the emotional. You understand what I mean? So through emotional intelligence is what Hatem, going full circle back to what Hatem was saying, is that can it be taught? Can it be taught? And the thing is that right now, that is how they're receiving it. That's how we receive it from them. It's not just the story. It's the sentiment and the emotion that allows us to be able to sustain and understand the context and the movement of that story, and the emotional process to be able to receive that lesson, whether it be healing or however. It's a process, and that's the way that and that's the same reason why in fraternal organizations you have to go through a process, an initiation of coming out of dark into the light. And every time the rules is all the same. You have to trust your guide and fear no danger. But the fact that you're being taken and sometimes in a way where it's a scary process where you're being taken through the darkness be able to experience the light at the end. That is the exact reason why there's an initiation, and we are living amongst the people in an age where people don't want to go through a process. They want to go on YouTube and get the information and feel that they have become masters just from YouTube and the information and experience it from a very cerebral level, and that is not wisdom mining.
That's true. That's true, and that's why I call it wisdom mining, because you got to do the work. Because I have to kind of have to pull back on what I said about the story piece, because Miss Regina says, I agree to a certain point that wisdom can be taught via stories, etc. However, it's often true that wisdom cannot be taught because it requires first-hand experience. I think of how my grandmother spoke with wisdom, but at a certain age, I didn't and couldn't really appreciate the wisdom. That took some living on my part. Then I was able to look back on the stories, the proverbs, the lessons, and recognize the wisdom. But yes, I needed the stories as the foundation. So, I
apologize for jumping in, but I too agree with what Sister Regina said. When you said it, what I immediately thought about was that when I was very young, and you and I have had this discussion before, I had people who were very wise who were telling me things, right? They were revealing things to me about my ways, my actions, my beliefs, my behavior, all of those things. It's in my red work bag. And so they would tell me these things, but it wasn't until I was old enough to experience them that I understood.
Right.
I also take these same, I tell women this about their girls. You know, when our girls go through that young adolescent transition, you know, and their hormones are out of control and they behave in certain ways. And a lot of times, it just be so different for moms and daughters sometimes. And I often tell the women that one thing for sure, two things for certain, once she becomes a mom herself, right, certain things will heal because she's not able to grasp it. And same thing with boys. You know what I'm saying? Parenting, period. We tell our kids things, we teach them things, but some things they won't truly grasp until they have experienced it or until they've matured into adults, right? And they're living it. So yeah, we tell them and they hear it, and I feel like they put it in their psyche. They put it somewhere in a file cabinet per se. You know, if I'm looking at the mind, I'm thinking of it like a file cabinet, and they put it in there and they shut the drawer. They put it in the folder, they shut the drawer, and then when that behavior happens or when that experience occurs, that file cabinet, that drawer opens, right? And then that message comes out where it was filed away. So we give them the wisdom, it stays there, but it really doesn't activate a lot of times until they can relate to it or until they experience something.
So I guess with the stories and proverbs, we lay the foundation on which wisdom can grow.
Correct.
Well, at least correct wisdom, because you got people that become wiser and all types of stuff.
What I feel like with the Proverbs 2 and the wisdom mining, what happens is that when we discuss these folk tales and these proverbs with our children, it allows them to then categorize their experience, some things that they've already experienced. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we have many things that proverbs. Folk tales that tell us about friends, you know what I'm saying? Trusting people, being cocky, you know what I'm saying? And some of those things our kids are experiencing. And so it allows them to then, and that's why I think that it's crucial and it should be an entire class, you know what I'm saying? Especially living in a moralist society. This should be an entire class because it will allow those children, you know, A, to put it in their file cabinet, but B, categorize their experience thus far.
Well said. So I think we done crushed that one. One can find it, live it, be fortified by it, do wonders through it, but one cannot communicate and teach it. So I have to go back. I stand corrected. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like when I thought about it, and then what y'all said, and then what Sister Regina wrote, I got to rethink about that, because wisdom is sort of like you have to experience and sacrifice in order to get wisdom. I mean, you could get knowledge, and one of the things, I think that's one of the things that may be slowing us down, because so many of us got knowledge, but a lot of us don't have wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Out of 10 people, we might know a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? But there's very few of us that have the wisdom about life, about the situation we in, that requires some of those experiences. And for some of this stuff, we need to kind of take heed to this, because we have to start finding ways to, and as the ancients used to, expose our young people to experiences, so that they can start, as Lady J say, open up their file cabinet and start applying some of the stuff that we're talking about. Start practicing some of the stuff we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? And Shaka, I want to say this about especially male initiation ceremonies. This goes back to and connected back to what Kwesi was talking about, far as the sexes, right? Now, even the sexes interacting, because the whole initiation, the lodge, the all that stuff is for men. Women have an internal womb. Men have an external womb. And men's womb is society. So we give birth to men in not even open ceremonies, in ceremonies in societies. You know what I'm saying? That's our womb. So we got when we initiate somebody, we're pulling them through, and you go through a dark tunnel, just like if you was going through the womb and you was coming out. That's basically what that is. I mean, that's that polarity. That's sort of that polarity thing you was talking about. You know what I'm saying? Because all of the wisdom and all of the learning that we do in a lot of these secret societies, especially for men, is an imitation of you being formed in the womb, and then coming out of the womb a new being, a baby. You know what I'm saying? A new person to add to society. You're reborn. Like in our societies, we change. I mean, the individual come out with a totally different name, and in some cases, maybe even a different personality. You know, so wisdom, man. All right. So where we going next? Kwesi, you was last on the line. We're gonna do 2 or 3.
3.
All right. You must eat an elephant one bite at a time. You must eat an elephant one bite at a time. That's from the tree people.
Wow.
Simple but useful.
You can't take on the whole journey at once. You know what I mean? Like, I recently had to quit one of my habits. I'm gonna just put it like that. One of my habits I had to put on the back burner, because it was keeping me from doing something that I want to do. You know what I mean? So instead of, like, it could be overwhelming for me to think about, like, that being something that I wasn't able to do for the rest of my life, because it's something I enjoy doing. You know what I mean? But when I look at it as right now, okay, I got the urge. If I can conquer a bite, you know what I mean? If I could conquer a moment, then that's all, because it's never not the moment. Like, it's always the moment. So if I'm trying to approach something from the perspective of thinking that I'm gonna conquer it at once, then I'm not gonna be able to. I'm not gonna be able to eat the whole elephant. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then another way is even, like, to kind of expand the metaphor. Like, I probably should invite my friends to have some elephant. You see what I'm saying? Because it's not something that I could do by myself, or find new friends that have an appetite for elephant. Because if I'm hanging around the same cats that's wanting to do the same thing that I was doing, then it's going to make it harder for me to make the transition that I need to make. You see what I'm saying? So, like, I think that's a pretty rich metaphor for real. You can look at that in a lot of ways.
A whole lot of ways. I mean, because, like, one of the ways I'm looking at it now is, like, if we look at I mean, because I always got to bring it back to us or bring it back to the conditions of where we are. You know what I'm saying? In all of our things. And this goes back to that one the proverb we just talked about. Wisdom. You know what I'm saying? That is a wise ass saying. You can't eat a whole elephant. You got to eat it one bite at a time. And all problems can be broken down so that you can deal with them one bite at a time. Even the problem that we are facing right now as a group of people. And then you brought up another important point, Kwesi. The elephant we have to eat right now, we need to be inviting other tribe members. We need to be building up the tribe so that we could consume this elephant, right? So, like even now, because I was thinking about this whole business aspect, and I be looking at people talking about, man, I want $1 billion business, and it's like you're trying to conquer, as you said, conquer it all at one time. Why not eat the elephant one bite at a time? Start with a hobby. Turn that hobby into a hustle. Turn that hustle into a business. Step by step. And then from that business, you just keep on building it. But what we are told we need to do, we want the microwave life. You know what I'm saying? We want it quick. We want it fast. When in fact, and one of the sayings that I came up with while I was building Gye-Nyame was, if it comes fast, it don't last. If it comes slow, it's good to go. But hold on, before anybody else say something, let me get Sister Cynthia up on here. Sister Cynthia say, wisdom is cultivated from knowledge. You can know some facts, but it will do no good if you don't help it grow, tend it, water it, then harvest it. Anybody else want to hit that elephant?
Can I say something else about that? Actually, this is something I'm kind of wrestling with in a sense. I definitely see the wisdom in this because I was watching this YouTube video the other day talking about like building wealth, and I'm not necessarily in the mindset of wanting to be a millionaire. That's not necessarily my focus. I mean, I understand. I'm not saying I'm turning down money, but you know, that's not my drive. That's not what gets me excited. You know what I mean? But I like listening to this dude. He was talking about it, and I was just kind of replacing the word money with like wealth as, you know, wealth, health, and feeling good, and just kind of whatever it is that I'm after, whatever it is I'm pursuing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he was talking about how billionaire companies or whatever have a 25-year projected plan. You know what I mean? And I don't necessarily have that. I have some ideas that are definitely long-term, but I don't know if I'm basically looking at my entire life projection. I don't know if I'm there yet. And I can see some value in it, you know what I mean? But, like, even if I'm not going to eat the elephant in one bite, I still could probably look at realizing that I do, that the goal, let's say I want the bones. You see what I'm saying? Because the bones, we're going to build something out of the bones. So the objective is to eat the whole elephant. So I might look at it from the parts that are the least dense, and I could maybe get that down faster. You see what I'm saying? Or just like look at the elephant and think about it in its totality and how I should best approach eating this whole elephant. You see what I'm saying? Even though I'm not eating it all at once, it is a good idea to think about the whole process of eating this whole elephant.
One bite at a time. One bite at a time.
I would like to think.
Go ahead, bro.
I would like to think that we could engage this one with a wider scope, not just about devouring an elephant with our own independent appetite, but looking at how, as a tribe, how do we consume this entire elephant before it rots? And so the piece is that when I look at my movement,
yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So, because, you know, where there are elephants, there are uses for every bit of that pachyderm. You know, the hide.
Use them big words.
The tail. Oh, come on, man. You seen Dumbo?
I've never seen Dumbo. I'm sorry.
Oh, man. Okay. So, you got the hide. You got the tail. Have you ever seen an elephant, a hair from an elephant? All of these things have uses. The tusk, the bone, even. And whose quote was this, Hot Tim?
This is from the tree people in Africa.
From the tree people.
Right.
Oh, Tweet.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, man. So I mean, yeah, when you look at breaking the elephant down and what that does to in terms of our trade and our commerce, our state of commerce, there's so much more usefulness than to, man, I can't wait to eat this elephant tonight. What beyond that point? Because how much elephant meat can you independently consume and not get sick? And how much of it can we consume as a people before it rots?
Well, actually, I mean, that goes into kind of, Quasi was talking about projecting. You know what I'm saying? Because some people that do hunt and will kill an elephant, like you said, will have a use for every aspect of the elephant, and will have methods of conserving the parts of the elephant that they couldn't eat in one sitting. They will have a use for the skin. So, I mean, and when we look at life, we got to be, in a sense, the same way. Because one of the things that we got to realize, like you said, I mean, even if I was to start eating this elephant, what's going to stop it from rotting before 3 days is over? It's going to keep the flies off. I need to call my tribe so that we could go on and split this elephant up. And the elephant also can be looked at as a problem. You know what I'm saying? How do I consume this problem? One bite at a time. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, because one of the things I said at the beginning of the show, one of the major issues, one of the elephants that we had to eat, or we've been eating on for a while in Gye-Nyame and everything else that we doing is transportation. And I just got word today that we about to get us a 16-passenger van. You know what I'm saying? But we going to have to eat that motherfucker one bite at a time. How you going to maintain it? One bite at a time. How you going to keep it running? One bite at a time. But we could use this vehicle to move us to the next level of the game. You understand what I'm saying? So the whole piece is now we got to start really calling on the tribe that, hey, we're going to eat this. We got an elephant. We about to eat it. So, we could look at the problems around us and start looking at, rather than looking at the whole problem in totality, like, because most of us do live our life like that, Quasi. We live our life. We look at the whole goddamn thing. And for some of us, that becomes overwhelming. Or others of us, we get caught up in illusions rather than looking at conquering our life one bite at a time. Dealing with the moments, to moment to moment. Yeah, you can set up a 25-year plan, hell, a 50-year plan, hell, a 100-year plan. You get with your crew, you can set up a 5, 10, 15, 25-year plan so that y'all could go and work some stuff out. But you got to handle it one bite at a time. And what a lot of us are doing, we're trying to rush through. Like, for example, when I was young, my elders would come into the African Center when we would be in class, and we would start arguments. The old ones would be arguing with us because they'd be like, hey, this struggle may take 100 years. All the young people, they're like, I ain't got 100 years. I want to see it before I'm dead, but not realizing that we're in a generational battle. How do you win a generational battle? One bite, one generation at a time. How do you build wealth? One bite, one generation at a time. How do you build happiness in a home? One bite, one decision at a time. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, this can be this proverb, as simple as it is I mean, it's packed full of wisdom. And it's just a matter of just pulling it out, doing that mining and thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? And remembering it. And once again, going back to what our first proverb said, we got to live it so that we understand or have the insight to review our lives, to look back in our lives and see look at situations, even with all these proverbs, look at situations where this apply and how if you knew this information back then, if you were to activate it, would you have been successful? And I could see plenty of times in my life where if I took that advice, one bite at a time, you know what I'm saying? I think we would be farther along. So, but hey, we are what we are. So everybody quiet on that one. All right, so we're gonna move to the last one because it's almost that 10 o'clock hour. I don't want to keep everybody up too late. All right. The last one is an English proverb which says, familiarity breeds contempt.
Ooh, that's crazy. I've been on mute. That's why I've been so quiet. I'm in the grocery store, so, you know what I mean? I'm trying to find some Dr. Bronner soap. They ain't got it. But familiarity, yo, that, man, it's tough to talk about. I think one of the things that people like us are going to automatically experience is going to be that conflict with our family, with especially our family, our Christian-rooted family, and, you know, having differences of opinion.
Right.
And anytime you break away from your tradition, man, it's going to be painful for everybody in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
Shouts out, Miss Lavina.
What'd you say?
No, I was sending shouts out to somebody. Keep on going.
Oh, okay. But yeah, man, because like people get accustomed to you being in a certain place. When like if a person starts to grow, then that's a reflection back on the people that ain't growing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And people don't want to see that. Like something that I'm like just to kind of even a solution to that problem that I'm learning for myself how to approach that, because I'm not exempt. I do feel like I'm in that sense that person that is growing. That's another tough part about growth, is because like it's kind of hard to be humble in a sense, because you want to always be humble, but then when you know that you've done stuff and you know that you're in a certain place, you got to know what you know and you got to be who you are. And sometimes like you want to be humble. I'm humble by my journey. I'm humble by my experiences. But I done some dope ass shit in my life. You see what I'm saying? And that's just the real. I done made a lot of changes. I'm not the person that I was 10 years ago. And actually, like within the past year, like 10 years ago, I became Quasi. But like within this past year, Quasi is starting to. You see what I'm saying? Like
right.
I'm pushing on the boundaries of Quasi now. You see what I'm saying? Like my family was just catching up to Quasi. You
Right.
know what I mean? So now it's like it's certain aspects of that I'm wrestling with. You know what I mean? So I just got to accept who I am, and regardless of who is happy with it or not, I got to be who I am. And what I'm learning, the most important thing is really, we have a hard time, especially as black people or people who have, by all rights, been victimized. We have a problem playing this victim role. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm learning is it makes way more sense to me, for me, and for everybody, really, boo. It's my challenge for myself is to compare myself to my former self instead of comparing myself to other people. You know what I mean? And even if people see that from me, maybe that can be a light for people, because it is discouraging for people to want to hold me back and to have to. It's crazy that the very thing that I'm dealing with at this very moment is seeing people. It almost seems like people self-sabotage just so that what I'm experiencing in light that's emanating from me or resonating from me or whatever that word is, just to kind of downplay what's going on with me. People downplay their own shit, man. It's real discouraging in a sense. You know what I mean?
Right. Because I mean, but you know, but that's part of it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's part of the journey, homie. I mean, and that, because we all grow and we outgrow each other and we grow away from each other, then we grow back into each other's life. I mean, or sometimes you might not see a motherfucker ever again, you know, but it happens. Miss Regina say on a more hold on, Miss Regina say on a more basic level, folks get tired of the same old. Remind me of SSDD. Same shit, different day, from the Stephen King movie, or Stephen King movie, where you constantly, you know, where you repeat stuff. But one of the things that I'm also noticing, even if that same because society moves so fast, we sometimes get tired of shit that's good for us, and we start showing contempt for those things that's good for us. Because this fits in the vein of you never miss the water till the well run dry. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers get contemptuous about water until that shit is missing. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be kind of. Go ahead.
That's some of the same, and this is where some of the proverbs is going to overlap. Because if we go back, listen, Tim, I might have something on my heart, and I might think that you need to hear it in a certain way because I think that I am bringing you some level of enlightenment, and we've known each other for years, right?
Right.
But if I see something in you that I think needs to be addressed at that moment, I'm going to say it. And if you know that it's coming from a genuine place, you will not be offended. But flip the script. If you don't know where it's coming from, and I'm speaking to you in the tone that I'm speaking to you in, and I'm saying the things that might or might not be offensive to you, but I just don't give a damn, but you still don't know to trust where it's coming from, that's when you build that wall up and you're going to block the blessing that I'm trying to extend, because in that sense, familiarity, what?
Breeds contempt.
You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
I might, on the flip side, I might have a relationship with a woman, and I'm an alpha man, and she's an alpha woman. And the piece is that when we on good terms, she might be all in, and it's easier for her to receive. But let something happen. Let something happen where I offend her, and I try to talk to her in that same tone, delivering from the same vein, and it's as genuine as it was before. She will not receive it the same because she don't trust me no more.
But then also let's look at it this way. Let's say, because all of us been in this situation. At one point in time, you was looking up to somebody. See, because a lot of experiences. So, you was looking up to people, but then you go away for a while, you learn something new, and you bring back, and somebody is wrong that you used to have to, in a sense, you know what I'm saying, had on a pedestal, and you try to correct them, and they'll shut your ass down because they are become contemptuous because they only can deal with you with where you were. Kind of like what Quasi is running to, not just with him.
Yeah, and Quasi, I'm gonna say this too, man, because I've been through that era in my life where when you met me in Columbus, I had been away from my biological family for some time. I've been in foster care since I was 14. Went to Ohio State, so by the time I was 18 to 28 to 30, I think I was in Columbus. Moved over to the East Coast, and finally 10 years ago, came back to Cleveland, my hometown, where my family had experienced me for the first time in some teen years, right? And when when I left, I was the baby of the bunch of all my cousins, and we was raised up in my grandmother's house. I was the light-skinned one, and all the, you know what I mean? Man, let me tell you something. It wasn't until I was my son's age, I was probably like in second grade, when I realized I wasn't Puerto Rican. That's how bad my cousins used to mess with me, right? my cousin used to call me Chipo from Puerto Rico because I wouldn't loan him no money. I was only 7 years old, I know. But anyway, I regret.
Wait, hold on. You not Puerto Rican?
No, man. The point of the matter, the point that I'm saying.
Hey, I done laughed out loud about 5 times, man. I'm so glad I'm on mute.
Man, listen. I came back 10 years ago. The first thing my grandmother asked me is, "You going to church with me in the morning?" And I had to explain to her, Mama, I can't do Pastor Hunter no more. Pastor Hunter is telling you some things, and I understand that this is what you believe, and you're gonna die with your belief. My grandmother at the time was at a place where she was ready to meet her maker. So coming back with this different information, no matter how genuine it was, I couldn't tell her what I felt. And even if I did, man, my grandmother,
right,
in age, I gotta respect what she knows.
And see, that's what some of us see, because it's like where I found you is where I leave you. You know what I'm saying? Because some people are not ready, and like one of the major issues I had with some of the brothers that I used to deal with years ago was that they would tell me stuff like, if you don't speak Arabic, you're going to hell, and if you're, so I said, well, what about those people that was brought over here unwillingly, and they don't speak, because at that point in time, people was, the argument was, we created Islam, and, this is the language, and Arabic is the language of God, and I'm listening to them, and I'm like, all right, cool, I want to hear you, but what I'm trying to ask you is this. If my grandparents was never exposed to the information that I have, and they've been serving Jesus their whole life, and they've been helping people from what I saw my whole life, you mean to tell me because they don't speak Arabic that they won't make it into heaven? And when dude said yes, I was done with that shit. In a sense, I got contemptuous. But I'm like, how am I supposed to explain, first off, why would I serve a God like that? Motherfuckers get mad at me if you want. Right? Why would I serve anything like that? You know what I'm saying? Second, how in the fuck am I supposed to ever communicate with my grandparents who have done everything that they have been prescribed? They might have slipped up a little bit, but we human. Right? How am I supposed to tell them that they are supposed to be going to hell? What type of shit is that? What part of the game is that? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to find people where we lead them, because it might not be for us to bring them to where they need to be. Now, what you can do is live the wisdom that you have, and if they see the improvements in you, maybe that might reflect on them. A lot of times we think that we have to dazzle people with our knowledge, and that's what I'm talking about. We got a lot of people dazzling people with knowledge, whether we talking about Christianity, whether we talking about Islam, whether we're talking about the Metunetter, whether we talking about the Moorish science, whether we're talking about the Hebrews, and I mean, all that shit. We got a whole bunch of people running around here dazzling motherfuckers with bullshit. You're very knowledgeable. I dig that. But, just because, and then motherfuckers hit you with this whole logic shit. One time an elder hit me with some shit one time that blew my mind. And it always stuck with me. He said, just because it's logical don't necessarily mean it's true. I had to regroup. It took me 2 years to regroup. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, God damn, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, go ahead.
Hey, Quasi still on the line?
He's still on the line. He's still in the store. He's on mute.
I thought I was on mute. I probably been making a lot of noise. My bad.
Oh,
nah, you good. Hey, so I just want to say this real fast. Back in 2012, at 36 years old, I thought my cycle was complete, and I was living in between extremes and bouncing between extremes so much that I knew that whatever was going to happen at that time was going to be final. And I was fighting for my son. I was fighting for custody of my son and my daughter at the same time. My daughter down there in Franklin County and my son here in Cleveland. I told my grandmother, I said, listen, by any means, it's how it's going to happen. By Christmas of this year, I'm bringing my son home. It's not about what's going to happen in court. It's not about what the other people want. I'm going to find my son and I'm going to bring him home. And so my grandmother, she asked me, she said, what do you call God? I said, the Creator, the Most High. She turned to me on commercial break. And she said, that's right, because Jesus is the Most High. Now, if you would have asked me back then, before that conversation, somebody said, "You believe in Jesus?" my answer would have been totally different than it is today. But my grandmother, before Christmas of that year, she passed away. And that brought me more view. And when I went into court, I was ready to do any and everything possible. I was ready. I don't need to say what I was ready to do.
Yeah, please don't.
All right. The thing is that nobody else showed up. So by default, they had to give me custody of my son. And the magistrate basically threw the paper at me and said, "You go find him yourself." Right? And that, to me, was my grandmother brushing my face with her wings from where she was at, because I knew that we had a full understanding of what was at stake. And we were protecting the same thing from both sides of life. And so today, when somebody asks me, "Do you believe in Jesus?" Oh, I believe in Jesus because that was my grandmother's Lord. And his power resounds through her today.
Now,
because she believed.
One of the things I want to put the challenge out, because we're going to shut this down. I want to thank y'all for joining me. Shouts out to Brother Quasi. Shouts out to Brother Shaka. I'm going to give y'all a couple minutes to do your last, if you got some final words. I want to send shouts out to all the people that joined us on Facebook. I'm going to challenge y'all to like and share. I'm telling y'all, family, it's growing. It's growing. I got to figure out how to take a picture of this damn screen and show you the numbers so that y'all can see what's going on, especially after we get off the show. But what I want to start doing also on Gye-Nyame Journey, because everybody that is a member of Gye-Nyame Journey, or everybody that like the page or follow the page, you can start putting up ancestral intercessions. I want to start tracking news where we could start looking and seeing where all this libation we pour, all these ancestors that we're reading, and all these ancestors that we're talking about. I want us to start looking and focusing. I want us to activate our reticular formations. And I want us to start looking and seeking out examples of ancestors' interventions, especially in our own personal lives. Because what I want people to start understanding is, because Shaka brought up a very important point, we have our ancestors acting in our lives, and oftentimes we overlook it. We call it luck. We call it chance. We call it all types of shit, rather than sometime stepping back and realizing that we might have a blessing on us from the generations that went before us. They might have not been able to put no material wealth upon us, but they may be interceding with us now, especially those of you that are getting up in some form of fashion, filling up your glass and toasting them every day. So what I want to start doing is start getting people to start posting up ancestral intercessions. I'm seeing it all the time. I seen one today. I won't share. I can't necessarily share that one, right? But it's something that I asked the ancestors for a couple of days. Well, the first one I was talking about, I asked for a couple of months ago. This last one that I asked for, maybe about 2 weeks ago. And I'm starting to see the manifestation of what I threw out there, family. And what I'm saying is, it works. We getting up here, we toasting our ancestors. I don't want anybody out there to believe that you're wasting your time. Because if you believe you waste your time, you know what I'm saying, and you're just going through the motions, don't toast with me. Because when I call on the ancestors, I call on the creators, I'm expecting results. I'm not playing with this, right? So, Shaka Kwesi, if you got some closing words, by all means, let them out now, or forever hold your peace, or at least in this moment.
Where Lady J go?
Lady J got off the phone a while ago. You know, she got to get ready for. She got a lot of stuff to do. I mean, she's out here in these streets working. You understand what I'm saying? Like, with our young people, with her children. She a many to many. She's a mother to many. and an auntie to a lot. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you said about the ancestors like playing a part in our lives, man. And I've been thinking a lot. I mean, I know a lot of people, especially in our community, wrestle with the word science. And I use science just kind of as a placeholder. The word. I don't mean the same thing that Western science. I don't necessarily mean that. I just mean like maybe a more holistic explanation for stuff. You know what I mean? A tangible explanation. I was talking to my cousin earlier, and we were talking about one of our little cousins that got killed. I know you remember Jimmy and all of that, you know, and how 2010 when my little cousin got killed. He was telling me about how, like, within that week of him getting killed, he was at the crib and a chair just slid across the floor, like 10 feet. A chair just moved across the floor. And he said he felt like that was Jimmy. And then he said that he felt like Jimmy didn't realize he was dead. He said he didn't think Jimmy realized he was dead. He told me that he said he imagined that when he got shot that he was laying there and he said to himself, because Jimmy was a beast, man. Like he was a pretty fearless dude. And he dealt with a lot. So in that moment of him getting shot, he said that he probably just thought to himself, like, damn, I'm shot, but I'm going to just calm down. I'm going to just relax. I'm going to go to the hospital, and I'm probably going to just wake up in the hospital. You know what I'm saying? And then he went to sleep, and he never woke up. But the way that he was, he couldn't even fathom death because he just felt like he was too strong for some shit like that to happen. And then I say that to say, like, just how we kind of energy, man. We just energy. That's all we really are. We energy that's so condensed that we created a body. So sometimes that energetic connection to this body, we don't even fully understand our connection to the body. So sometimes when the body is deceased, we might not fully understand that. So then when you talk about ancestors and then the whole, death to an African or death to any living being, especially a human being, is being forgotten. You know, that just kind of, for me, put that whole thing into a different context to realizing how real and how serious that whole piece is that these energy beings, these skin suits that we wearing is not, it doesn't begin to encompass the type of energy that we carrying around, and it can't really be dissipated that easily. So that's just kind of my 2 cents to shed light on how powerful it is for us to continue to show reverence and to uplift people that came before us and how they can continue to play a role in our life.
I say. So you, Shaka?
Yeah, I know. I'm I got this Pentium too.
He buffering, y'all.
You know. Yeah, my mind be buffering. So
he still got a Pentium. You better upgrade to that Snapdragon, boy. You taking too long.
Hey, man. It's gonna happen sooner than later. It's got to. You know, I was thinking about Quasi, just some of what you was just dealing with, and you know, in the times that in my life where it's weird speaking about near death and dying and stuff like that. People at the barbershop is like, man, I cringe every time you say you died. He was like, can you just please say that you was reborn? You know what I mean? That's because that's the way we see it. You was reborn. It was, So he says is that a lot of times, and what makes sense to me is that we live in more than one dimension, and we die in more than one dimension. And I think that oftentimes, for those who are not fulfilled or don't feel that they've fulfilled the destiny, they just live on in other dimensions until their work is done, because energy cannot be destroyed. So how can you take someone from this planet and think that they're just gone? The energy's still there. Right? So I don't know. That's just where that's what I feel. And in terms of the ancestors, I feel that the ancestors are as vital as we are on this side of life, and are wishing for us to yearn for the same connectedness for them, or to us as we do to them. That makes sense. Did I say that right?
Word, I got you. I mean, how can you say it wrong? I mean, you did a beautiful job. So, family, I want to thank y'all for joining us tonight on, and joining the congregation of the mighty in the conversation. Thank you to Miss Regina. Thank you to Miss Cynthia. Thank you to Patal Ra. I don't know who else is on here, but I thank all of y'all for stopping in. For those that got questions about some of the herbs that Shaka mentioned before, he posted them up on the timeline, and more than likely he will post them with pictures of them on Gye-Nyame Journey. Family, I want to welcome you to the congregation of the mighty. This is Gye-Nyame Journey Media. Oh, the camping trip is canceled. We had a little faux pas, so we're gonna have to cancel camping trip. This is a Heart of a Simple production, and we just got done doing some wisdom mining with tribal quotes. And we don't do nothing but strive to break those old paradigms.